let's imagine the water in this glass are your customers. These are the people that will eventually turn into this beautiful coffee that you will eventually have that pays bills, makes money, and does more things. How do we get from one to the other using your data to then build out a structure that you can take action on? Today, we're going to talk about CDPs, customer data profile. Generally, when you hear the word CDP, people run, all right? It sounds complicated, it sounds expensive, it sounds like you don't know what's happening, but let me tell you exactly how you can think about this in a way that makes more sense, especially now that we're in the AI era, the era of artificial intelligence bringing things to the platter to make things more efficient. Today, we're going to talk about 5 different types of data, how they can be stitched together, and what you can do about that. The first piece of data is a website, right? Your website traffic, everyone's very familiar. Let's just use Google Analytics as the example, right? Someone comes from an ad, they go to your website. On the website, they poke around. They visit the pricing page, they visit a blog post, they learn about your thing. They eventually put in your email address and say, hey, my email is susan@banthony.com. Cool. You now have a customer. You have a potential future customer. They are considered a lead. So those sessions, users, leads, impressions, blog post views, those have all been captured. And now you have that, Susan's journey to become that. Great. With a tool like GA4, you cannot say this is Susan. You might have an ID, but you don't know who they are. You have no idea. Other platforms, you can actually keep the email address. So now you know that person is there. So I would take point number 1. Use a platform that you can keep the email address to make sure you know who they are and you can start that deal stage at point A. The next piece of data that you have, right, data point number 2 is going to be your product, right? This is the actual interface that someone is using. This is the features, the flows, the adoption, the widgets. All of those different things are what we're going to label as your product. In the year of 2025, product and marketing are becoming tighter and tighter. So there might be parts of your product that are exposed that people can utilize without ever being on the website. So just keep that in mind, is that your product is another piece of data that we need to layer into this cake. If you have that email address, right, you have susan@banthony.com, we can now say, hey, this lead magnet of the 10 ways to make $1 million in 30 seconds has driven that Susan to become in the product. We can now tie feature adoptions back into the lead magnet. Pretty cool, right? The third thing that you want to try and tie together is your revenue, right? This is oftentimes in Stripe or some other Bill.com, you name it. There are a million platforms that take revenue. So now you have revenue, and if you can tie that revenue purchase to an email address, you now have website, product, and revenue all tied together. So Susan@banthony.com, she came in from this lead magnet, she's viewed this product, she's adopted these features, and then she has given us money at X amount of dollars. The other 2 pieces that are really helpful to layer in that I'm going to talk about very quickly is the content on your site. So a lot of people have a lot of great content that you really want to utilize. And then you have the qualitative inputs, and those would be forms and feedback and calls, right? If you have a sales process, all of this information is data that your potential customers and current customers can generate. Great. I've now outlined the 5 different types of content, right? We have the website, we've got content, we've got revenue, product, and qualitative input. How do we store this? You can now decide on what type of CDP you would like to use. Segment is probably the biggest, well-known, and also probably most expensive CDP out there. There is Adobe Target, Adobe Suite, but there's kind of Segment that serves as a CDP, and then Adobe that you kind of layer on top. I think people use Adobe and Segment pretty together. Now, you might ask the question of, is my database a CDP? And the answer to that is yes. People will fight tooth and nail saying, hey, no, your BigQuery database is not a CDP. This other thing is not a CDP. Also, there's 2 things that you want to get out of your CDP. Level 1 is data visualizations that make sense. So for example, say you have 10 lead magnets, right? On the left side, you have lead magnet 1 is a PDF, and lead magnet 10, that's a webinar, right? And there's a bunch of lead magnets in between. The question might be is saying, hey, which lead magnet drives new leads, meaning people that did not exist before, and then drives revenue within 90 days? Now you have a question that the CDP should be able to answer. The same thing goes for feature adoption, right? You want to say, hey, this event that happened on the website of someone signing up, someone viewing this actual feature, and then giving us money, are those correlated? The same thing goes for inputs, right? Someone giving you a bad review or bad experience. What was the journey of that customer to that? That is most often answered by a CDP data visualization, where you can stitch together multiple data sources and have that at your fingertips for the team to make a decision. The second thing that you can do with a CDP is going to be take actions. You can have your CDP trigger emails to be sent, SMS to be sent, features inside of your UI to be utilized. If someone has done these 3 things, to display this banner to them. If someone has not done these things, email them on day 14. Those are also things where you have to have multiple different pieces of information to make an informed decision. And that way you can build out automations that have all of the data for context and aren't just relying on one platform. What often happens is that your email marketing system kind of starts becoming the CDP, but it lacks usually the website traffic, right? It just knows how many leads happened. It doesn't know how many people saw those leads. That is the big downside of using your CRM as a CDP, unless it is something like, I don't know, I think Klaviyo is one of the ones that's kind of pioneering this like CDP/CRM infrastructure, but most really suck at that. So how would you diagram out building out your CDP, right? This is the structure that I would go out, and you can build this out much more elaborately, much bigger, but the idea holds true. The first thing is your website. You want to look at your site and say, what are all of the ways people can contact us? What are the ways we can capture an email address? Usually that is leads, gated content, sales, webinars, discounts if you're e-commerce. Those are the core structures you want to use on your website to collect a person, right? We've got people, we're collecting people, turning them, remember, into our coffee. So we've got that. We now, once they have given us that, we want to see all the content. So all the content on our site, whether that's videos and blog posts and SEO optimized content, you get the idea. Then we want to map and flag down all of the features, right? All of the valuable things that we believe are pushing people down the funnel. This could be really important things if you're a software. If you're an info company, people consuming the content. If you're e-commerce, it's people that are actually using the features on your site to try on the clothes, to do those different things. All those valuable features, you want to flag those and say, hey, we've put effort into this, we are flagging this as valuable. We then want to see all of the purchases, transactions, subscriptions, all of those different methods to give us money. We want to write those down as well. Then we want to layer in all the different ways we can collect feedback. This is your post-purchase surveys, your post-webinar surveys, your email replies, your live chat, all of those pieces we want to centralize and say, where are they currently? Now we have a plan, right? We've put together all the ways people can enter into our CRMs, into our CDPs, into every other aspect. And what we're going to do is we're going to start mapping and say, hey, where does this email address live? And how does that work in our overarching ecosystem? Because we want to be able to answer questions like which leads are driving the most revenue? What if someone has a touch point of customer service, does that contribute to higher revenue? Maybe we should have a live chat. Maybe we shouldn't. Which features are driving more adoption of a higher lifetime value? Which features are driving people to initially give us money? All of those questions we want to centralize, and that way the team can start building out this data infrastructure that we then layer data visualization on top of. Again, the goal here is that you have visuals that everyone knows what to do. And then the secondary goal is that you start triggering actions based off of those visuals and say, hey, if someone uses this feature within the first 30 days, they do this. If someone does this or is checking out this other piece, we want to send them an email. You understand the idea. So that is the structure and the loose idea of how you can plan out your CDPs. I see you're enjoying this content. If this is something that sounds very, very interesting to you and you'd like to learn more, go over to visionlabs.com/contact. We have an audit that we can do for free. We have a paid audit, and we can also talk about what it likes to build out your future using data and not just looking at it, using it. If you liked this and if you want to try some more of this, leave a comment down below. We could talk through how to integrate in this with paid media, how to integrate this into actually building out on a platform. This is the strategy of our 4 quadrants. And next time we'll talk into deeper if you want more of this.